Now, first of all, if you look around right now, you're going to see like all the billionaires and like super successful people in the world, like really going gung ho talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I mean, Richard Branson is one of these, visionary people who love the concept of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and blockchain and everything to do with crypto. Okay, and he actually accepts Bitcoin in his company. So, this is a quote from Branson himself. He says, there's a big industry around Bitcoin. People have made fortunes of Bitcoin. Virgin Galactic is a bold entrepreneurial technology. It's driving a revolution. Okay. And Bitcoin is doing just the same when it comes to inventing a new currency. This was Branson talking on CNBC. Then you've got this guy over here, Peter Diamandis. Some of you guys may know him. He's a very innovative, entrepreneurial, the head of something called the X Prize Foundation that you may have heard of. It's like a think tank for some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. And he says, at its core, Bitcoin is a smart technology designed by very forward-thinking engineers. It eliminates the need for banks, gets rid of credit card fees, currency exchange fees, money transfer fees, and reduces the need for lawyers in transitions. All good things. Then we move on to this guy over here. You may recognize him, Al Gore, who was the 45th president, of the United States. And he says, I think the fact that within the Bitcoin universe, an algorithm replaces the functions of the government is actually pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. And the list just goes on and on and on. Here's Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal. He says, I do think Bitcoin is the first encrypted money that has the potential to do something like change the world. Okay. And then the man himself, Mr. Bill Gates, as he says, Bitcoin is a technological tour de force. Bitcoin is unstoppable, and Microsoft accept Bitcoin. So, when you've got people like this really getting behind something, it shows you that, there's something to pay attention to here, right? And at the time of recording this presentation, Bitcoin price is currently sitting at over $7,000 per coin, guys. I mean, is that insane or what? I mean, check out this growth pic in front of you. I mean, I don't think anything has grown this much in history, and nothing that I've seen anyway, just within a few years, go from nothing to now being worth $7,000 per coin. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, you may know this guy if you've been following the whole crypto world. He's Ronnie Moas of Standpoint Research, very reputed guy. And he basically says we're still only at the tip of the iceberg. And he predicts that all cryptocurrencies will be worth $2 trillion in the next 10 years. And a significant bump from there, which is a significant bump from their current standing, which is about 150 billion. And Moas basically, and I agree with him here, sees a direct parallel between the crypto market and the dot-com boom of the 1990s. Now, Moas is predicting that the prices of Bitcoin very quickly will reach $15,000 to $20,000 very, very quick. So now is the perfect time to jump into this, okay? Here's basically another director from PayPal, basically. His name is Wences Casares, and he's predicting that Bitcoin will hit $1 million in 5 to 10 years. Now, these people aren't fools, by the way. They're not just your average random person on the road. Okay, these are very well-respected people who have achieved a lot in their field. Okay, you may have heard of John McAfee before. I'm sure you've heard of McAfee antivirus software before, right? Pretty sure if you've got a Windows PC, you might already have McAfee. All right. Well, this is a guy behind it, John McAfee, and he basically claims that Bitcoin will be worth $500,000 in 3 years. If you don't know John McAfee, I mean, he's the guy who created the McAfee antivirus software that ended up being purchased by Intel a decade ago and made him like 8 figures and made his name famous all around the world. I mean, he's the reason we all recognize the name McAfee antivirus software. Now, once again, this man's no fool. He's a public go-to figure that's often interviewed for his technology expertise. And he also now runs one of the largest crypto mining companies. And I mean, if you don't know, crypto mining is a very expensive and complicated process by which cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin get released into the marketplace. So, I mean, this is somebody, I mean, he knows what he's talking about and he knows what he's doing in terms of being an incredible smart entrepreneur. And he believes that Bitcoin is going to go to $500,000 and more. And, it's not anybody just saying this, okay? I mean, he also said that he's got some kind of doctorate in point set topology that can notice patterns, and it predicts Bitcoin over $2.4 million in a few years. Now, for those of you guys who aren't experts, you really have to sometimes put your ego aside and just listen and try to understand, why would somebody like this say that? I mean, there has to be something behind it. And it's that missing piece, to understand why people like this are making these claims. If you can really go behind the kind of words and understand what's going on, that's what can make you incredibly successful. Okay, I mean, you don't want to just listen to your brother who works for the bank and says, "Oh, it's not possible for Bitcoin to hit that amount. It's just ridiculous, etc., etc." You want to really see what's going on in the marketplace. So you really have to start paying attention when people like that are saying these kind of things. I mean, first thing you should know is that Bitcoin is not going to be continually circulating. Okay, they're not going to always put new Bitcoins out there. So there's a cap of 21 million Bitcoins that are ever going to be mined. And once there's 21 million Bitcoins in circulation, then that's it. So obviously, if you just follow the laws of supply and demand, okay, there's not going to be more Bitcoin put out into the marketplace. Okay, and as the demand keeps on increasing, this is what drives the price higher and higher. I guess a simple analogy would be if you look at the property market, for example. Okay, like property goes up and down, but in the long run, if you look at the graph, it's always going up and up and up. Because why? There's less land and more people. So the supply is less and the demand is a lot more. Obviously, Bitcoin is a lot more complex than that, but it's a similar kind of analogy. There's only going to be a limited amount of Bitcoins ever available, and the demand, as it keeps on increasing, okay, the price will keep shooting up. Now, add to the mix things like this, okay? This is from Sky News, right? There's news circulating that Amazon will also soon be accepting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in their marketplace. What's that going to do when that happens? Once again, it's going to drive up the price. Now, also with thousands of Bitcoin ATM machines popping up all over the world, and there's thousands of these now, okay? And there's huge companies like Microsoft and PayPal who already accept Bitcoins, and then you add to that the limited supply of Bitcoins and the massive demand. I mean, come on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's going to keep on happening to the prices of Bitcoin. It will keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. And the question is, when are you going to jump on this train? Now, we haven't even got to the good stuff yet. I'm just doing a little bit of a soft introduction, okay? I'm going to show you how you can start earning Bitcoins every single day into your account without having to buy them at today's sky-high prices. But for now, for those of you who are new to this call, I'll very quickly share a little bit more about my background first and, what made me get involved in Bitcoin right now and why I'm so excited about it. Okay, now, my name is Saj P, and, I've been a successful entrepreneur now for over 10 years and a leader in the digital marketing space for over a decade. I started off my journey as a top seller on ClickBank. You may know ClickBank, they're the largest digital products network in the world. They've paid out billions of dollars to their vendors and affiliates, and I'm a 9-time number one bestseller on that platform. I also own a company called Pro Advertising, and I've made millions of dollars in this industry, and I've got a real passion for teaching and helping others. So I've now personally coached and trained over 500,000 students over the world on how to make money online. And I'm very proud to say that our company has some of the highest documented student success stories in this industry. I mean, I have many students who have reached a 6, 7, and some even an 8-figure income online. You can see one of my top students, Shaq, on the picture on the right here next to his white Ferrari. And, he's one of my top earners, earning anywhere from $600,000 to $700,000 a month. And many of you may recognize him. I've also been a pretty sought after public speaker, and I've delivered presentations to thousands of people around the world, including, with the likes of Richard Branson, Lord Alan Sugar, President Bill Clinton, etc., etc. I also do a lot of work with corporate companies and businesses and help them scale up their marketing. Here's a testimonial from my good buddy Jordan Belfort, who you may recognize from the film Wolf of Wall Street, where Leonardo DiCaprio played him as a leading role. And, he says Saj P is an incredible leader and has great vision and impact when it comes to marketing and business growth. He's given us a lot of great advice in our company. Follow him closely. So anyway, that's a little bit about me if you've never heard of me before and you're on this call. And, a few years back, some of my friends told me about Bitcoin and how I should get involved. And I was like, no way, man, this is just a fad. I just wasn't interested. I guess my ego got the better of me and I just thought, okay, you know what? I'm in internet marketing. It's highly lucrative. There's super cash flow, rich business that I'm involved in. So I always treat other investment opportunities as secondary. And even though people whom I respected and who were very successful kept telling me to buy Bitcoin, to be honest, I just didn't listen. I slept on the whole concept of cryptocurrency. Then I saw Bitcoin prices rise to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 in front of my eyes. And I literally saw people, some of whom had nothing, go from zero to earning millions of dollars. And in some cases, tens of millions of dollars. Now, you may have heard of some of these like wild success stories yourself in the news. I mean, this is a funny one. I just had to put it in the presentation. This is a 10,000 Bitcoin pizza, which is perhaps the most famous story out there. Okay, this was the first ever real world purchase using Bitcoin, where a Florida developer bought 2 pepperoni pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. Okay, at the time that was just worth like nothing. I think like $20 or $30 or whatever it was worth. Now that pizza and that pizza purchase is worth over 20 million. Okay, so that is one hell of an expensive pizza, right? So that this is an old screenshot, okay, but basically now if you look at the price, it's worth a lot more than that. Okay, so at the time the transaction is only like $20, but I bet that guy is kicking himself right now. Well, I personally know people who have made some huge come ups like this. So recently when I saw Bitcoin rise in price to like 6,000 and then 7,000, I was like, damn, enough is enough. All of these predictions that I've been hearing about that these people are making about Bitcoin hitting 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 and more are all true. And I really need to start investing in Bitcoin immediately if I want to catch this wave. So what I did is I immediately went out and I bought a bunch of Bitcoin. Okay, you can see a screenshot from one of my Bitcoin wallets. A wallet is basically like an online PayPal kind of site where you store your Bitcoins, just like a PayPal, but it's for Bitcoins, okay? So you can see a screenshot from a few weeks back where I just went out and I just went crazy and I bought like 9 Bitcoins for like $60,000, okay? And once I did that, I felt much better, because I knew that, okay, I actually own some Bitcoin now and I know it's going to keep going up. I knew it was a good investment. I wasn't going to lose money in the long run. But you know what? A part of me felt like I had still missed the train a bit. I knew ultimately it's going to go up in price and I'll make a good ROI. But deep down, I was like, man, if only I could buy Bitcoin at 2009 prices and make tens of millions like so many other people did. That would really be a miracle. Imagine you could rewind time and do that. Would you like that opportunity? Like, ask yourself, would you like that opportunity? Yes? Okay, cool. Well, I'll show you how. So, having the kind of profile that I have, I've been quite blessed to, build up a little bit of a name for myself and a profile. So this has given me access to some insider private groups, okay? And within those groups, as if by a blessing from somewhere, um, some of my business associates and partners started showing me a system that they're using to literally multiply Bitcoins and earn income daily in Bitcoins. So it's like when I first saw this and I really started paying attention to it, it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. Some of these guys were literally generating 1 to 2.5 Bitcoins a day and are still doing so. So at the current rate, that's like almost $20,000 a day in Bitcoin. And remember, as it's in Bitcoin, as the value of Bitcoin rises, the value of their money just keeps growing. That's the unique beauty of this system. And I'll show you exactly how it works in a moment. Okay, you can see my buddy Justin, who I'll bring onto the call a bit later, hopefully if he's around. Okay, and this is him like posted the other day. Yesterday my Bitcoin was worth 152,000 and now 24 hours later it's worth 179,000. We'll talk more about him in a second. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm definitely getting involved in this. Whatever's going on, I want to know. And I went out and I met all the top earners and the top leaders, and I just started really digging into this. And over the last few weeks, I've really learned about this system back to front. And this is what I'm presenting to you today. Okay. Now, look, when I'm looking at opportunities, what I'm really looking for personally for myself is maximum leverage. So I think to myself, how can I get maximum results for my time, for my risk, and for my energy? And that's exactly what I'm going to be passing on to you now. So what I was really looking for is how can I get maximum gains both in the short term and massive gains in the long term? So really for me, this whole Bitcoin strategy was a jump from being a business owner to an investor. Now, you may recognize this diagram. It's called the cash flow quadrant from the famous Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, he always says in his books that ideally you want to move from the left-hand side of the quadrant to the right-hand side of the quadrant. Okay, so on the left-hand side, up here, you've got an employee where basically you're just stuck on the rat race. You basically have a job and are trading your time for money. Very hard to create wealth and an amazing lifestyle for yourself over here, right? Then you have down here, self-employed, which is basically a glorified job. You basically own a job. You're still trading your time for money, and it's tough. It's a tough, it's a tough life over here, right? And according to Robert Kiyosaki, if you want to build wealth and lifestyle, you want to move over into the right-hand side over here. And this is where it starts in the B quadrant. Now, as you know, I've been very successful in this B quadrant for some years. This is where you're a business owner and you own a system that makes money for you. So even if you walk away from your business, the money should keep rolling in. So you have people and systems in place to manage the growth of your business. Now, this is very liberating. And, I've been in here, this quadrant, for almost a decade now. Okay. But it's taken me many years to get to this stage, and it still requires constant attention and work to maintain it. But I love it. I love being a business owner. Okay. But the ultimate stage is where you move over here to the I quadrant, where you become an investor and where your money continues to grow and expand for you, even if you're not involved. And this is what we're going to jump into with the strategy that we're using over here. So, being in the B quadrant for so long, I've developed the ability to see leverage, to see real opportunity and see what's good and what's a waste of time, basically. And quite frankly, this ability to figure out a good opportunity and put my energy into what's going to pay me a huge return is exactly what I'm doing here, and exactly how I approached moving into the I quadrant, because that business experience I've got has been very helpful for me to decipher everything to do with cryptocurrencies, and that's exactly what I'm going to pass on to you. Okay, so it's very important to act fast if you want to capitalize on this, because timing is everything. One of my first mentors said to me something that I remember to this day, and he said, Saj, money loves speed. The people who get the biggest results are the people who can act in the biggest way and act in the fastest way. And that's just simply pure fact. So before we get into the good stuff, let's just take a very quick look into Bitcoin and why it's causing this huge revolution. I mean, Bitcoin, you just can't you can't sleep on it anymore. Okay, it's a runaway train. You cannot stop it. Okay, it's experiencing some of the fastest growth ever seen in any investment in history. So if you're new, I just thought I'd give you a tiny bit of education on what Bitcoin actually is and why it's becoming so popular. Now, I don't want to spend too much time going into what Bitcoin is, because we want to really focus into the money generation aspect of it. And for those of you guys who are quite logical, who want to dig deeper and find all the ins and outs and the history of Bitcoin, etc., I will send you after this call access to a free training course that will explain in depth about the ins and outs of Bitcoin, the history, and what can be done with it, etc. Okay, but for now, I'll give you a quick overview before we get into the insider money making Bitcoin multiplier system. Okay, well, Bitcoin was invented in 2008 by a supposed Satoshi Nakamoto, which is actually a pseudonym. Nobody really knows who is the real creator behind Bitcoin, okay? And Bitcoin is the world's first decentralized digital currency. So Bitcoin is actually a digital currency, also referred to as a cryptocurrency, and is created and held electronically. So the banks of the world and the governments, they don't mint Bitcoins like they do money. Bitcoins are created by people on computers all around the world using very complex software to basically, do these mathematical equations and validate transactions and introduce new Bitcoins into the economy. Okay, there's a whole complex process that goes on behind it that you don't really need to know, right? If you're interested, I'll send you more information on it. So this process is called mining, and it means that Bitcoin isn't controlled or directly influenced by any specific company or any specific central authority or government. You see, traditional currency systems, in traditional currency systems, I should say, consumers like me and you and investors don't have a say in economic policy or its underlying mechanics. We just trust the banks to protect our money and our governments to protect the banks. And there's a lots of corruption involved in that world, okay? So this skewed concentration of power to these few institutions presents a great risk for people like me and you and investors, because we can lose vast amounts of our wealth due to circumstances that's entirely out of our control, okay? However, Bitcoin provides an opportunity to take control and not have to rely on this self-serving institution for our financial well-being. So it's a digital currency, just like your US dollar or British pounds, and you can use it to pay for goods and services from around the world. It's also a global payment system that allows you to transfer Bitcoin from as little as a fraction of a penny to in excess of billions of pounds or dollars instantly for free or at an absolute minimum charge. So it's like a decentralized trust network, free of banks, company, government friction, or corruption risks. Okay. Now, just to give you a little bit of a background on currency, if you don't know, because this is all building up context. Remember, I'm the kind of person who really believes, because I can just show you the money-making system in like 20 minutes. We're going to cover that soon. But I always believe that if you don't give somebody the right context, they can't really value whatever you're going to show them. So what I'm giving you right now is just some brief context to show you how much of a revolution Bitcoin is actually causing. And that's going to make you have an aha moment and see what an incredible opportunity this is and why you have to jump on this right now. Okay. So just so you know, once upon a time, money, the money that you hold in your hands, the pounds and the dollars and the notes and the coins, was once upon a time backed by gold, meaning that the dollars that you hold had gold reserves as a foundation determining their value. But nowadays, our currency is known as something called fiat currency. Okay, it's not backed by gold or anything anymore. It's just a currency that the government has declared to be legal tender. It's not backed by any physical commodity. So the value of fiat money is derived from the relationship between supply and demand rather than the material like gold, which it once upon was built upon. All right. So governments basically can now print as much money as they want, and this actually reduces the value of it. So, inflation is happening all the time. The prices of products and goods in the world are increasing. And as that is happening, the value of your money, the dollars, is decreasing every day. So if you have $1 million sitting in your bank account today, this is going to decrease in value and purchasing power in 5 years from now. I mean, it's not even a big deal having $1 million anymore, but you can't even buy a decent house in London for $1 million. You probably get a 3-bedroom house close to the city, which is nothing. And in 5 years' time, $1 million will become even less valuable. So this is why Bitcoin is causing a revolution in finance, because Bitcoin is decentralized currency, which means no party holds power or control over it. Okay, it's evenly distributed amongst its users, and the system is far more robust to attacks and free of corruption. Okay, so it's a peer-to-peer global payment network as well as an actual currency. And once again, because there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins mined, this limited supply coupled with massive demand will keep on pushing the prices higher and higher over the years. I mean, it's gone from 0.05 cents to $7,000. That's like a 10 million% ROI, right? And it's paved the way for many new cryptocurrencies to come into the market as well. Okay, so Bitcoin is also powered by something called blockchain. So all the transactions that happen when you send or receive Bitcoin, they happen through this blockchain, which is basically a network of people and computers, and it stores every single transaction that's ever taken place on the Bitcoin network. Okay, and then you've got another thing called a wallet, which I explained earlier. A wallet, I'm just explaining all the basic Bitcoin world terminology to you right now. Okay, a wallet is basically what you use to store Bitcoin and to transact, okay, to send Bitcoin and to receive Bitcoin. Just like PayPal that you use for money, you have different Bitcoin wallets. The only difference is Bitcoin payments are instant. There's no delay, okay? It's a little bit of education for you before we get into the system. Now, before we move on to how to make money with this, another very important point that I really wanted to put into this presentation so you can understand how our current financial and transaction system which is very old and cumbersome, and how Bitcoin completely is disrupting this old, outdated model. So you see, our financial system hasn't changed much. There's been an upgrade from physical coins to credit cards, which obviously has greatly increased the utility of money on a global scale. But behind the scenes, it's a very problematic system. I mean, the credit card that you use today has actually been around in various forms for about 70 years. But when the credit card was invented first, okay, the internet was never part of its vision. I mean, they didn't know that one day there's going to be a thing called the internet and we're going to use our credit cards on the internet. So it's very important for you to understand this. So you see what a superior technology Bitcoin and blockchain is. Okay, so when credit cards were invented, the internet was never part of its vision. So as it became apparent that the internet would allow people to buy goods in a way that was never possible before, okay, the financial technology behind credit cards has continuously been forced to innovate so we can basically use it. But, it's not been a good, robust system, as you're about to see. Like, for example, Visa and MasterCard dominate how we buy goods online. So let's take a look at a simplified version of a typical online transaction with Visa. So say we have a guy called Mike over here who's basically got his Barclay card and he wants to buy an Apple iPhone from Apple's website, okay? Well, first of all, he'll initiate a payment online to the Apple website. His payment details, along with millions of other people's payment details, are held on Apple's servers. And if a hacker wanted to pull this information, they can pull this information from Apple's website. So basically a honeypot of financial information. Then Apple pulls this from the database and requests WorldPay, which is the acquiring bank, to process the transaction. The transaction is then fed from WorldPay into the Visa network, And Visa then requests the permission to pull the amount from Mike's Barclay card. Barclay card check their database and confirm the transaction and release the funds. Now, this might happen quite seamlessly to you, but behind the scenes, it's actually a very complicated process with a lot of loopholes and danger. Okay, and this is just a simplified version I'm showing you here. Okay, it's actually a lot more complex than this. So, consider some of these real life scenarios that can happen. For example, Visa network can experience technical difficulties due to an IT glitch and momentarily stops processing transactions. Happens all the time. WorldPay, the company, could become insolvent and don't offer payments and honor payments to Apple anymore. How many banks has that happened to in the past? Barclay card could become insolvent and can no longer issue credit to Mike. Apple servers can get hacked and the credit card info of millions of customers could be lost or stolen. Okay. As a credit card transaction pulls funds from a customer's account, it's common practice for the customer's payment details to be held on the merchant servers for future use. This once again creates a large honeypot of sensitive payment details and a sweet target for fraudsters and hackers. And then once again, there's always potential due to human or system error for a credit card or debit card to be wrongfully charged without prior notice. Okay, this is all common world things. Now, compare this to the same process with Bitcoin, which is an instantaneous transaction that doesn't require the mediation of like a third party, such as your bank, to turn into cash, because Bitcoin is the digital equivalent of cash. So in this scenario, Mike initiates a payment online. His payment is then propagated around the Bitcoin network and validated by miners. It now becomes a permanent record on the public ledger. Now, no, Mike never discloses any sensitive financial information in the transaction because, the merchant doesn't need to store and secure financial data. So there's no honeypot of customer payment details stored by the merchant. Then the Bitcoins are instantly received and once the transaction is done by the merchant, and the merchant does never have to worry about chargebacks as Bitcoin payments are non-reversible. So the payments are direct and the digital equivalent to a cash payment. So by using Bitcoin to pay for his Apple iPhone, Mike bypasses the need for any central authorized institution like a bank and eliminates a lot of this complicated process and all of the potholes. Okay, so this is why this technology, all the billionaires are getting behind it, because it's like a seamless, fast technology. Just a quick overview. Okay, so before we get into the money-making system, I just wanted to put this in the presentation. So I know some of you guys are brand new, just to give you a bit of education, because I've really been going deep into this stuff and looking into it from all angles, as you can see, because I'm really backing this crypto stuff now. Okay, so for example, here's a couple of scenarios that can happen with Visa and why it doesn't happen with Bitcoin. So for example, here on the left-hand side, Visa network experiences technical difficulty due to an IT glitch and momentarily can't process transaction. Well, in Bitcoin, this wouldn't happen because the network is decentralized. So if one miner experiences difficulties, the workload will simply be distributed to other miners on the network. WorldPay becomes insolvent and cannot honor the payment to Apple. Well, Bitcoin isn't a company, therefore it doesn't risk insolvency. Barclay card becomes insolvent and can no longer issue credit to Kate. Well, Bitcoin isn't a bank, so it can't become insolvent. Apple servers are hacked and credit card information of millions of customers is stolen. Bitcoin transactions don't require a server to store sensitive customer information, negating the risk of hacking. Okay, and finally, as a credit card transaction pulls funds from a customer's account, it's commonplace for the customer's details to be held and hacked, etc. Well, payment details aren't stored on the Bitcoin network, so there's no honeypot of information once again. Okay, so, what's the conclusion over here? Okay, the conclusion is that with negligible fees, no permission required to interact with the network, and no intermediaries due to its decentralization, Bitcoin presents a radical change and truly tangible and significant advancement to today's financial industry. So welcome to the most exciting and revolutionary invention since the internet itself. And once again, limited supply and high demand literally makes this the best investment in the world right now. And the numbers don't lie, guys. Look at the numbers, from $0 to $7,000 and climbing. And as Bill Gates said, nobody can stop Bitcoin. Bitcoin is unstoppable. Cryptocurrency is the future. So how can you get involved with Bitcoins right now? I mean, is it too late? Okay, I mean, everybody wants to own as many Bitcoins as possible right now. I mean, imagine owning 100 Bitcoins and each Bitcoin being worth $10,000, which is very close to now. Well, that's $1 million in money that you've got, value. And what happens when Bitcoin goes up to $20,000 or $100,000 per coin? Okay, and then also once you have one Bitcoin, how do you turn that into 5 Bitcoins? And how do you turn 5 Bitcoins into 30 Bitcoins? I mean, if you have a lot of money, because it's so expensive to buy right now, you can just buy Bitcoin and hold on to it and store it in your wallet. I mean, it's a smart investment, but you can grow it more rapidly. There are ways, okay? So let's look at all the different ways to earn Bitcoin. I'm going to show you a few different ways. So way number one is if you're an expert trader, you can trade Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on the online exchanges where you buy low and you sell high, okay, just like any trader would do. But this, although this can be very lucrative, it requires years of experience and it's very risky, if not impossible, for a newbie to get into this kind of trading and get consistent results. I mean, 97% of people who try to get into any form of online trading lose money. It's a very common statistic, okay? But that is one way you can buy and sell Bitcoins, okay? Another option is you can start mining Bitcoins, okay? Whereas you actually start producing the Bitcoin. But as you can see from the setup on your screen, this once again is, you can call it an impossibility. It's very complicated and a very expensive process. I mean, to begin mining Bitcoins, you need to acquire Bitcoin mining hardware. I mean, in the early days of Bitcoin, it was possible to mine with your computer CPU or a high-speed video processor card. But today that's no longer possible. Okay, Bitcoin mining with anything less will consume more in electricity than you're likely to earn. So this is for the average person, unless you've got like a huge, if you've got a lot of expertise and you've got a huge amount of servers and complicated technology, this is something that is a waste of time. You can't do it. Okay. Another smart way to earn Bitcoin is to accept Bitcoin for your products and services. So, there's many smart, innovative companies who have started doing this. So, if you're already selling products and services, you can offer options for people to pay you in Bitcoin. And as the price of Bitcoin keeps rising, it means what you make for your products will keep going up in value. I mean, I'm going to start doing this soon. We sell programs, but I'm going to start accepting Bitcoin. So if I sell a $2,000 program, I'll say to somebody, rather than pay me $2,000 cash, pay me $2,000 in Bitcoin, because I know that Bitcoin that I get, $2,000 is going to keep going up, right? But once again, this isn't a hugely scalable option, as not everybody is able to do this and not everybody is going to be paying you in Bitcoin, okay? So the final and the best method in order for you to earn daily Bitcoin consistently, safely, okay, and grow your wealth massively is to partner up with companies who are already making huge profits by trading cryptocurrencies and from mining cryptocurrencies, and use the power of some insider strategies that I'm about to show you to compound and also add the power of internet marketing to grow your Bitcoin wealth. Okay, this is what we're going to be focusing on. So one of the fastest, safest, and